Well, it only took them 14 years to make this film, but it's finally here, the long-awaited sequel to The Incredibles, the smash hit Pixar film from 2004. But the question remains, was all that time worth the wait? My review coming up. What is up, everyone, and welcome to Men vs. Movies. I'm Griffin, as always, and hey, if this is your first time checking out the channel, thanks for checking it out, and hit that subscribe button for more incredible movie and television-related content on a regular weekly basis. So Incredibles 2 is written and directed by Brad Bird, coming back from the original, and the original voice cast is coming back as well. We got Craig T. Nelson, Holly Hunter, Samuel L. Jackson, Sarah Vowell, and Huck Milner. So picking right where the first one left off, our favorite family of supers engage the Underminer in an attempt to save Metroville. Unfortunately, in doing so, they cause significant destruction, resulting in more of the anti-superhero movement. In an effort to change the public's perception, Elastigirl becomes the new face of the pro-superhero movement. So what can I say about the first Incredibles that hasn't been said before? The first Incredibles, the first time I saw it in 2004, little elementary school Griffin, was blown away. I think I abused this DVD way more than some of the other ones I owned, but I remember sitting in the theater the first time just in awe of what I was watching. I had so much fun. I loved the characters. I loved the world Brad Bird created. And the music by Michael Giacchino cannot be understated. It all adds in giving us an incredible Fantastic Four film with some James Bond influences, as many people have said. And I, like many others my age, wanted a sequel immediately. And we didn't get one. And it broke my heart because I started to think that maybe we would never get this incredible sequel. Because out of all of Pixar's films, the one movie that deserved a sequel, that really truly deserved it, was the first Incredibles. And then they finally announced that we're getting an Incredibles 2, and it immediately skyrocketed to my most anticipated film of 2018. And after seeing the movie, guys, I was floored. Incredibles 2 100% delivers. It was worth that 14-year-long wait. Brad Bird gives us an incredible picture that is worthy of the Incredibles name, and it's a picture that I will say rivals the first one. I don't know if it's better, because I don't know if a film like this can necessarily top the original. Maybe in time it can, but it is at least on par with the first one. That is how good this movie is. And one of the key reasons it's so good is Brad Bird's vision. Brad Bird understands this world. It's one of the reasons why The Incredibles is so special, is because the world feels unique. It's got like a 60s aesthetic to it, classic superheroes, some spy elements thrown in there, and all of that stuff that we love about the first one is back here in the second one, and the animation is better, so it automatically just gets a bump in my book. But what I think that Brad Bird truly has a handle on is balancing these characters, developing them, furthering them as people, and making us care about this family. And let's face it, if that core element isn't there and it isn't strong, the movie really doesn't work. In fact, I'll go out there and say that this is actually a better interpretation of the classic Fantastic Four than the first one was. I equate the first one to more so of a classic 60s spy film like James Bond. This one really doubles down on the family dynamic more so than it did in the first one. And in that regard, it feels like reading a classic Fantastic Four comic book. Now, all of that being said, Brad Bird does an incredible, no pun intended, job of crafting action set pieces. The beginning opening where they're fighting the Underminer is fantastic, and then there's one in the middle where you've seen glimpses of in the trailers where Elastigirl is going on this mission on her bike. It's ripped straight out of Skyfall or a James Bond film. I love how he choreographs action, and even though this is an animated film and he can go balls to the wall as far as suspending your disbelief, he makes everything feel relatively real and grounded. And the last thing I'll say in terms of set pieces is that the ending of this movie, if you are a James Bond fan, you're gonna get major Thunderball vibes, because it's like the ending of Thunderball, and it made my heart very happy. Let's talk about the story. I think that Brad Bird, once again, we're gonna be talking about Brad Bird a lot because he wrote the story. It is a little bit different than the first one, and as a result, I think the movie ends up feeling a little bit different, which makes this film feel fresh and helps it stand apart from its predecessor. Bird does a great job of tackling the pro-superhero movement and anti-superhero movement thing that we've seen in many other comic book films, such as like Captain America Civil War, Batman vs. Superman, and even Watchmen to some extent. I would actually say that Incredibles 2 is a very surface level version of Watchmen. There's not enough of a comparison to really say, oh, this is Watchmen, but there's little hints of it in there that make this film feel a little bit more mature than your typical family animated picture. And then on the other side of that, we've got the family life. We've got Bob taking care of the kids and trying to deal with being a stay-at-home dad. And I thought that was a great look at just your typical family life. I feel that that's probably one of the most relatable parts of the movie. Families that go see this are definitely going to relate to that part especially. And that's ultimately where we get the most character development of them having to mature and work out their family issues together. And speaking of the family, I think that's the perfect segue into the characters and the performances. Across the board, the entire voice cast does a great job once again of bringing these characters to life. Craig T. Nelson as Mr. Incredible is probably my favorite in the film. I just really like his character. The journey that he goes on as a character is probably my favorite throughout the entirety of the cast. He's dealing with his legacy and worrying about whether or not he's going to be remembered by people or whether or not he'll have the chance to be a superhero again. And then that fits in with his family dynamic because he realizes that he has to be a dad. He has to spend time with them, help one, and take care of Jack, who is only a baby. And so all of those elements help to make Mr. Incredible's arc my favorite. Now, as for Holly Hunter as Elastigirl, she gets a boost in this movie. I mean, she gets more screen time. She gets to do a lot more of the action. She goes out there being the face of the pro superhero movement. And it's a great character arc because she's out there so that her kids and her family don't have to be afraid to be superheroes. But at the same time, she's missing out on spending time with her family. And it's difficult for her and she has to cope with that. And I thought Holly Hunter did a great job of vocally portraying those feelings and emotions. But on top of all that, we get to see her and her skill set put to use. She's a great detective, she kicks ass, and she proves to us why she's one of the best in the business. Now, as for Violet and Dash, they both have great side arcs. In fact, I would say the kids in the movie, including Jack, get a great boost from this film. You've got Dash, who's a ball of energy. He wants to succeed in school. He needs his dad's help. We've got Violet, who's dealing with her own teen romance problems, which is a great journey for her character and helped strengthen the relationship between her and Mr. Incredible. And then Jack. Man, if Jack does not steal this film for a lot of you all, I don't know what to say. Jack has some great moments, and just remember the raccoon. When it comes up, you know you're in for a great scene. And I think just to kind of close out this character segment, the thing I loved the most was this film does what any good sequel does. It furthers the characters. It helps us get to know them as people even more so than it did in the first one. And that's because I think this movie feels the same, but also different. A lot of the time is spent developing the family dynamic on them, overcoming these hurdles that they have to in order to further themselves as people. And it was nice. They did a good job of tying everything into the larger story at hand. The last thing I want to say regarding Incredibles 2 is the score by Michael Giacchino is amazing. I mean, it is absolutely incredible. I know I've been saying that word a lot, and this is the Incredibles, so it's fucking stupid. Michael Giacchino's score is one of the key elements in helping this film feel distinct. It's got a lot of Bond influences in there, a lot of great new themes. It gives it that classic 60s aesthetic. It helps make some of these moments feel like they're gonna pop out of a comic book page, and make some of these moments also feel very reminiscent to James Bond, as I've mentioned before. This is gonna be a score that I re-listen to over and over and over again, much like with the first one, and I can honestly say it's my favorite score of the year so far. So great job, Mr. Giacchino, you knocked it out of the park once again. And that's really it, guys. I had a blast with Incredibles 2. It's got a lot of great heartfelt moments, a great family dynamic, and a story that furthers the characters in a way you would hope they would do in a sequel. We waited 14 years for this film and it doesn't disappoint. Great and memorable action sequences, and Brad Bird's direction is off the chart. I guess the only thing to do now is clamor for the third one. Let's make this a trilogy. It needs to happen. I want the third one. I don't want to have to wait another 14 years. But for all those reasons and the reasons I've mentioned throughout my review, I'm ultimately going to be giving Incredibles 2 Supercharged I think at the moment this is currently my favorite film of the year. Thanks guys for watching. Hopefully you've enjoyed this review of Incredibles 2. If you've seen the film, be sure to let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments section below. And also, while you're down there, what do you think is the best Pixar sequel? And while you're down there, take a second to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more movie and television related content on a weekly basis. You can also like Men vs. Movies on Facebook and follow us on Twitter simply by searching Men vs. Movies. And lastly, guys, if you like me specifically and you like what I have to say, you can always give me a follow on Twitter at Griff Schiller. All right, that's gonna do it for this review, guys. And until next time, take care.